On Father's Day, we look at a study by Sonke Gender Justice and the Human Sciences Research Council. The study explains that in South Africa there is no one typical father, but many types of fathers and kinds of fatherhood. Let's find out more. We're joined via Skype by Wessel van den Berg, Child Rights and Positive Parenting Unit Manager at Sonke Gender Justice. So we know that there are biological fathers, and unfortunately in South Africa, these fathers are not always or are not often present in their children's lives, and we see that occurring in different levels in different sort of parts of society. But apart from biological fathers, there are also uncles and grandfathers and family members and community members and models, people children look up to, even though they're not biologically related to children. So tell us about some of these different types of fatherhood and how they positively impact children.
Thanks, Anli. It's great to be on the show, firstly. From Sonke, we did this work with the Human Sciences Research Council, and we wanted to look at the actual numbers that we have available from the General Household Survey. And, there's a conversation going in South Africa that is fond of using the phrase that a half or more than two-thirds of children in South Africa grow up without a father. If you actually look at the numbers, most children live or grow up with a man close by. It's true that not many live with their biological father, but most children actually share a household with an adult man. And what we don't know is how involved these men are in caregiving. But it's definitely an untapped asset in terms of activating some support for especially women who are bearing the brunt of caregiving for children at the moment.
So we also see men facing a lot of criticism at the moment, given the scourge of gender-based violence in the country. And we have to be fair as well and give men their due, that they play a very vital role in teaching both young girls and boys about positive gender relationships. On Father's Day, as we celebrate the men who are very active in their children's lives, we also need to talk about where there is a lack and where that role modeling is not being taught and where there's not positively reinforced in households.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think, in terms of gender-based violence, the cycle has to stop. So children growing up, boys especially growing up, looking at men who are violent, will repeat that. In terms of men who are adults who are using violence, that's been the major cause of their own motivation for using violence, is having grown up in a context where they see that. The only way to stop that cycle is to actually demonstrate to boys that men are caring, men are able to be trusted, men take responsibility for the caregiving in the household, and that boys and girls start to normalize that and see, a man is not always necessarily a harmful person, but can also be somebody who contributes towards the household. That's a long-term strategy that is definitely based on fact.
Something that also came out of that study that surprised me is that even men who do take on certain caregiving roles that might not be traditionally seen as male roles are not affirmed or valued as women are for those acts of caregiving. What kind of impact does that have on fathers?
I think the problem is that care work is devalued. And I don't think that women are necessarily affirmed or acknowledged for those tasks either. So I think the problem is actually systemic in the fact that we need to attach greater importance to how valuable caregiving is, especially in terms of relationships between parents and children. It's the caregiving work that establishes attachment between parent and child, mothers and fathers. And if we attach the value to that is necessary, for example, children under the first 2 years of their life, or the first 1,000 days of their life, that's when their brain neurology is formed. And we now see that development is accelerated if they have good, solid caregiving that's done consistently. So if fathers can play a role in that, it would definitely help the child's development, but it would also secure and anchor a good relationship with the father and the child. Even if the father then later on separates from the mother, the child then has some kind of attachment to the father and vice versa.
Today we also have to look at the fathers who perhaps do not have as much access to their children as they would like. We do often speak about absent fathers, but some of them do not have a choice, either by way of economics. Where they work and live might not be within access to their children. Others have been denied access to their children by their partners. Must be a very difficult day for those fathers.
Absolutely. We hear so many conversations and cries from fathers who are saying, I would love to be involved, but for various reasons I'm not able to. At the same time, it's so hard to make any general statements about that without knowing the particulars of each individual case. In some cases, if men have used violence, it's a good thing that they are separated from the children. As the person in your previous Act Now clip was saying, if there is use of violence, it's a good thing. And nevertheless, for non-resident fathers who are still in touch with the children, who have a good relationship with the child, I think the contact with the child remains important, even though it's not physical contact. So sending a WhatsApp message, a regular call, remaining in touch in one way or another means a lot to the child. At Sonke, we often refer to the fact that fatherhood is the right of the child first. We know that according to our Children's Act, parents have rights to access to children, but a child has the right to be cared for by two people who are crazy about them, and that's what we are promoting.
All right, thank you very much for talking to us today. That was Wessel van den Berg, Child Rights and Positive Parenting Unit Manager at Sonke Gender Justice.